I'd like to reconvene open session. Please rise for the pledge, and then I'll have a moment. I want to make a statement before the silent meditation. Thank you. So the pledge first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is with a sad heart. As many of you are aware, our Terre Haute community is mourning the loss of one of our students, Allie Nelson. She was a senior and a beloved member of our community, an athlete on our wrestling team, and a student in the CTC Construction Technology Pathway Program. On behalf of the Terre Haute School Committee, we expressed our sincerest condolences to the family and the school community as we all work through this difficult time. Please take this moment of silence to remember Allie. Thank you. Do we have the first one? I guess not. Right?
Nope. Ready for the second one? I recommend minutes which relate to the privacy of students and their records. Approval of home instruction requests remain sealed.
Second.
Yeah, I know. There was a motion to recommend the minutes which relate to the privacy of students and their records. Approval of home instruction requests remain sealed, and it was seconded by Mr. Callahan. I'm sorry, he made the motion first, and Mr. Luzon seconded it. Sorry, you guys are. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Any opposition, recusal, abstention? So that was unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Juicy, disclosure executive session votes.
We closed both of those items?
Well, this first one we tabled
Yeah,
we tabled the first one, so I don't know.
Thank you.
No, that's okay.
We had 4 votes in executive session. The first were executive session minutes of September 28th, 2021. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, and McAllister. Executive session minutes, September 28th, 2021, home instruction requests. Approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, and McAllister. Home instruction requests for tonight. Approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, and McAllister. And finally, to return to open session, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, and McAllister.
Thank you, Catherine. Recognition.
So please join me in congratulating and thanking the following. Richmond School Green Team for their donation of 249 pounds of fruit and vegetables to local food banks and the Richmond School. They have far exceeded their goal for 2021 by over 80 pounds. We truly appreciate the incredible work this team has accomplished over the summer. I'd also like to thank Sheila Grover and David Stoll for their service to the Terre Haute community. As members of the school committee, we wish them well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now that we're into the time is for public forum, so those who will wish to speak on any agenda or an item that's not on the agenda may please come forward to the podium. Okay. Thank you very much, and I guess we'll move on to business.
Okay, first we have a presentation for AP, SAT, and PSAT data, which will be given by our assistant principal, Jean Bredanini. Yes.
Yes, we do.
Is it not?
So thank you for letting me present to you tonight. This is my first presentation to the school committee. And just in general, you know, this year, while it's been very busy, I'm extremely happy to be here at Terre Haute. So we're just going to look at some of the standardized tests that our students have taken this past spring. So we have the AP, the SAT, and the PSAT test. So I first wanted to start with some of the major celebrations for our SAT and our PSAT tests. So in both the PSAT and the SAT, our students scored above both the Rhode Island and the national averages. So you guys can see the details there. Having a mean score, an average score of a 1026 is really impressive considering the 951 and the 998 that it's compared to. So just as a reference, in case it's been a long time since you've taken the SAT, it's out of 1,600, and the reading and the math are each out of 800. So it just gives you a little bit of reference for how well the students are doing. And for PSATs, that's a little bit lower of a scale at 1520. So there's a lot of information on these next couple of slides, but I did want to highlight how for the ERW, or the evidence reading and writing, our students scored 64% past proficiency, past the benchmarks, which is incredibly impressive when you look at the Rhode Island and the national scores. And with math, they scored 40%. Again, impressive if you're looking at both the Rhode Island and the national scores. Similarly, with the PSATs, students scored 81%, meeting benchmark on the ERW, and 48% on the math. Moving to AP, we have quite a few celebrations here. So this last spring was the year of adaptability. So students had options to take the test, and it could have been online, it could have been on paper pencil, the traditional way. They could have been in school, or they could have been at home. Depending on the test, they did have a variety of modes that they were taking this test in. And we'll see a little bit later kind of the effect that that may have had. But in general, when we're looking at some of the great successes, the Spanish language and culture for its first year, 81% of the students earned a 3 or higher. And so a 3 is considered meeting proficiency on the AP test. Not scored out of 5, but 5 is the top. So reaching a 3 or higher, that's really the goal, the benchmark that we want students to attain. For 3 years, our AP Bio students have met an increasingly high amount of proficiency. We have 80% or more have met their proficiency of 3 or higher. And then for the 4th year in a row, 90% of our AP Computer Science students have met the benchmark of 3 or above. And this slide is just to highlight some of the great work that the students are doing out of all of the subject tests that they take. The blue is just showing the average score of the students, and the red is showing the percentage of students that scored a 3 or higher. Now here's a slide I do want to talk about a little bit, because we're showing the historical data and success. And you'll see that there was a rising trend of the AP scores for the past 4 years until last year. But I want to go back to one of the first things that we talked about, and that adaptability that our students had to consider when they were taking these tests. There were a lot of variables that we knew we could account for, but there were other variables that really took a toll. Some of those might have been the actual test itself. And for example, when students take an English language test, they have to read a passage and then they answer some multiple choice questions. In a paper pencil test, they can go back to past passages and answer questions. If they are taking that test on the computer, once they finish that passage and those set of multiple choice questions, they cannot go back. So, and we can dive a little bit deeper into the data, but that's just an example of some of the hurdles that the students had to overcome and the unexpected adaptations that happened during the spring. But I did want to show, when you're looking historically at 2019 and 2020, our students have scored better than both the Rhode Island and the national scores for AP. Unfortunately, at this moment for the presentation, the national and the Rhode Island scores are not released. So I do not have that data to show you how we rank compared to the state and to the nation. And finally, I wanted to talk about where we go from here. And so some of our goals that we've looked at is re-engaging our distance learners and making sure that we support, because being at home is not a controlled environment like it is at school. And so we want to bring them back, re-engage them in what it's like to be in the classroom, and to make sure that they are feeling comfortable and strong in the classroom. We are going to focus on areas of need. So when we drill down to this data, we'll be able to see specific things, especially in the SAT, in the reading and writing, and in the math. You can drill down to the specific areas of need. And so we're going to focus on that in our department meetings. And then we do have new high-quality curriculum materials with StudySync, and we are looking at the math materials, and those are going to be really supportive in making sure that we meet our standardized test goals. So are there any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Gori.
Thank you. That's great. I guess I have a comment and a question. So until this year's data are released, we don't really know if that 58% is an anomaly this year or if that's reflective of national, right? So it might turn out we're doing just fine. It's just a downturn.
Correct.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I would be curious, so I don't know if you know this offhand, but maybe for the future, on the table you showed with the 2021 scores in the bar graph, could you either at some other time or in the future just put the number of students that actually took the tests also in each of the given years? I'm assuming that number's gone up. I don't know about this.
Oh,
current
I
year,
have
but
it on the
from 17
SAT
to
and
20, I'm guessing the number of students has gone up because I think if my assumption is correct that the number of students has gone up, I think that makes a stronger case for how well we're doing because we're adding more students and we're continuing to score better and better and better.
So I actually I don't have the exact numbers, but I do know that the
I expect exact numbers. I'm just
the 2021 year, there were less students that
Sure.
did take the test. So of course
But
that
Andrea, you'd probably know, did it go up from 17 to 18 to 19 to 20?
Yeah, so if you look at back to since 2017, our numbers have increased in
Yep.
terms of enrollment.
Yep.
And we've also increased the number of AP courses that we
Yep.
offer here. We're really
Right.
proud of how many, over 22 courses we wanted to increase those.
Yeah, and I
offerings.
think that strengthens the numbers that you're showing.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lagori.
That was great. I would also like, excuse me, I would also like to know if you know how many of those kids, because even the significance of the score of a 3 doesn't necessarily mean that they get credit when they go on to college. Okay? I don't know if you're aware of that, but certain colleges expect a 4 or better. Okay? So they don't necessarily get the actual credit that they anticipate getting for the work that they've done in high school. So I don't know if you follow up on that at all. How many kids, like, okay, you're using the number 3 as your benchmark, and that's great, but how many kids got a 4 and actually transferred those credits to actual college credits?
I can get that answer and I can send that to the.
And it does depend on the college. So for
That's what I'm
example,
saying. That's
even
what I'm
at a
saying.
5 at BUBC is not going
Yes.
to, you have to still take the assessment.
Yes, and many of them now are not accepting a 3. They're looking for a 4 or a 5. So, if we're making 3 as a success, which I think we should, any kid that takes an AP course and does well is a success. But if we're looking at a 3 as the celebration and they don't get college credit depending on where they go,
It depends.
I think we need to be aware of pushing it a little bit to try to get a 4.
Yeah, that's, I mean, we always strive for high expectations. That's who we are.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think that just nationally, when you look at College Board, they're acknowledging that 3 as proficient, as meeting those benchmark expectations, meeting those standards of that class. As
But the colleges that are
Yep.
obviously, the student is expecting to get college credit for that course are not necessarily seeing that as proficient. That's the point.
yeah, it
I'm
depends on
making.
the college and the university. Absolutely. Yeah.
And Mr. Day, I believe, had, and then Mr. Legore. Mr. Day?
Yeah, following up on what Donna said, you've given us a chart and everything, but you really haven't told us a lot. I think a little less on this and maybe a little bit more on the background and the in-depth stuff like Donna was asking, because, anybody can look at a chart and say, hey, this is great, but if you don't have all of the background, then we don't really have a good idea. 'Cause all of us aren't educated, so a lot of us don't understand some of the things that are going into this, and I'm of the opinion that a lot of the things that we're talking about here now, colleges aren't even concerned about in some cases. So I think that would be beneficial to have more background and less charts and graphs.
The SAT score is used as our state test, so.
Yeah, right.
We are looking at that for our accountability report card.
Ms. Legore and then Mr. Callahan.
So I have a comment and a question. Donna, I think you make a really good point. I would just caution in using those numbers because there's a growing proportion of students, and I know this both personally and in my professional work, that even though they score high enough, that they choose to retake the course anyway
Okay,
once they get to
okay.
college. And so a student could get a 4, and calculus and computer science are 2 of the classic ones. Students often take calc, AP Calc, get a decent score and still take it anyway
Mhm.
because they're often advised.
Which is
so to-
wise, yeah.
So we would want to be cautious, right? A student could get a 4, but then they choose not to take the credit, and so we wouldn't really, with your metric, we wouldn't really capture that. So we just would want to be thoughtful about how we're capturing those scores.
I
My question,
appreciate that, yeah.
and my question for you, and I don't know if you know the answer, but are the national numbers? So here at Charahoe, you expect every student to take the SAT. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a good proportion of students taking it who have no intention to go to college.
Correct.
Yes.
So from a quantitative standpoint, you're sort of mixing apples and oranges in there. When we compare to the state, the nation, et cetera, is it the same? Are they doing it the same?
Yes, that is the state and the national testing day. So the
So
school.
like are all, and I don't know the answer to
So
this.
Rhode
maybe you
Island
know.
schools, I think it's a state requirement, and that's the state.
Oh, okay, but
assessment.
nationally, we
How-
don't know for sure.
I don't know each
some
state,
districts,
some
okay.
states, I don't know if they're all adhere to that same guideline, but for example, our accountability report card, all districts throughout the state of Rhode Island, the SAT is an accountability measure
Yeah,
to
yeah,
rate our
Okay.
factor, and all students are afforded the opportunity to take that test for free in public schools.
So this maybe is outside of this purview, but do you have the ability to at some point pull out the scores of those who did go to college and sort of retroactively keep that number
To
handy?
do like a post look through after, we
Yeah.
could tease the data out that way for sure.
I think that's just helpful in terms of your school outcome data and also in working with students about
Yeah.
their choices. Because you got a 1026, it probably would be higher pulling out those
Right, you can
and tell
Kinda tease
another
out
story.
based on their intended future course of
Right.
program. Yeah.
Yeah, we were pulling from the school day, but we could look at, a paid Saturday test and the scores from that as well. And we
That's
could
true.
look, so that
That's
would
true,
be
'cause that
a
might be
student's
different.
option to go
That's
and
right.
take that
And do
test. This
Yeah.
is the school day test.
Right.
More self-directed in terms
Right.
of that assessment. Yep.
Question, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you. Just a little curious on how our students are prepped for the SAT. So if a student's in 10th grade, they take the PSAT and they establish a score. Are we able to link that student's score and kind of where they anticipate or where they would hope to go for college? And then how do we prep them for the SAT itself?
So I can definitely speak to that. So number one, we triangulate data. We look at different data sources. We look at STAR assessment. We look at SAT performance, PSAT performance. PSAT could be an indicator how students eventually perform as one tool. STAR reading and STAR, well, now we're heading into study sync with our new highly high-quality curriculum materials. But we look at a variety of data sources and making informed decisions for students. We've also done some real targeted work in ELA and math to identify the different SAT domains where we might see some shortcomings and do some targeted work there where we really focus on a certain strand or domain of the SAT where we need to put more effort towards. We actually are taking a deeper dive into our SAT, PSAT, and AP scores. Currently, we've started that work, and our department heads continue to look at trends, look at historical trends to make informed decisions, see if there's comparative data that provides us with some key takeaways.
And the
The
students
SAT
get individualized reports as well that specifically tells them what they would need to do to increase their percentage points and in what areas they scored the highest and the lowest, and they break that down for student by student.
Okay, so I guess my question on that is, so if I come to you and I say, okay, well, I got a 972, here's my breakdown, I really want to go to Stanford, and that's my target school. Am I able to get that level of granularity where you're going to be able to say, well, the average student that applies is a 1410, so for you to get there, this is where you're going to have to make strides based on the individualized breakdown that the test provides? Is that
So you can look at it like Ms. Picard said at the individual student level. So I was kind of explaining like there's different levels of looking at our data, as you know, building wide, classroom based, cohort based, and then at the individual student level. And if a student is really invested in their SAT score and wants to see growth to be able to hit a target school, yeah, you could absolutely take a look to see what strand or which area the student most struggled with, and maybe they can focus their studies towards that particular domain.
And Khan Academy allows them to get direct access into that profile so they can
Okay.
have more practice tests so that they can continue to see how well they're improving.
Thank you, Ms. Picard. I was just going to say,
And
Khan
it-
Academy
just-
does
just
link
a-
up.
Good conversation.
a follow-up on that. So I appreciate this, but in terms of, I realize that Rhode Island uses the SAT, but are we seeing the SAT's value kind of diminished in any way nationally, in which colleges and universities aren't relying on the SAT or have intention to kind of back away from the value that they attribute to the SAT in applications? Are you seeing that anywhere?
I think it really depends on the college and university, and I know some colleges and universities are looking at the whole child, and that's where I think our learner qualities really come into play. Our 5 learner qualities in terms of professional work character does depend on the college and university. Go ahead.
I was just going to also add that, these past couple of years with COVID and the pandemic has really made universities take a closer look at these standardized tests, given that some students weren't able to access them in an equal manner. So I think it's more of a national conversation about standardized tests overall. We are really looking at them for our state accountability and making sure that we can maintain our 4-star rating. So that's where our focus is going to lie. And while students can individually use their scores and access through Khan Academy to have personalized instruction and assessments to help them improve their scores.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Donna.
So, not to belabor the point, because this is a hot topic right now, but my senior grandson is probably going to take his SATs for the 7th time because he's pushing for 1,600.
He's going for it.
He's an anomaly. But anyway, and we say, why are you doing that? Because they don't necessarily count no matter where you apply. And he feels that that's just adding to his other academic record. And the Rhode Island Honor Society, the National Merit, so it's a package. It's not just focusing on that one test. You know, it's really a package to keep your academics up, to keep your grade point average up. And then he feels he would then submit his SAT scores, which are very good, as helping him get into the college of his choice. So I think if we approach it that way with these kids, they will see that they have to, there's a lot of dimensions to getting into college.
Oh,
and what
absolutely.
they have to do.
Without a
Yeah.
doubt, showing that community service, that you're
Yeah.
connected to
Well,
our
that's what
school
you were saying,
building,
yeah,
service to our school and extracurriculars absolutely
right.
play a role.
It's all part of the deal.
Absolutely.
To make yourself look desirable to the college of your choice, yeah, anyway.
Mr. LaGore?
I could talk about college.
Yes.
all day.
I know
I have
that.
a lot of insight, but I won't. But if you have younger children, I'd be happy to pick my brain. The SAT scores are being temporarily phased out in admission. But if you look at the fine print at most of those schools, you still need to submit test scores for merit if you want a
For what?
scholarship.
For
If
merit.
you want a scholarship.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I think that's an important point for students to recognize that
And he wants a scholarship.
almost all of them will have a sub point that says, but if you want to be considered for merit, you do have to submit
Yes,
a test.
okay. That's
So
a
they're
good-
not
that's a really
walking
good
away
point.
entirely, and it's all temporary. Who knows
Yeah,
how it will play out over
Yep.
time.
we are in a unique time.
And keep in mind, I know, like I said, I go on all day. When a school that is of some prestige says we no longer are asking for test scores, that means the number of applicants goes up at least 50%.
Oh, that's
So
true,
while you
yeah.
think it's easier to get in now,
No.
it's
Yeah.
actually
Actually
exponentially harder
Yeah.
Yeah.
because more people apply.
Stand
And
out
look
even
at
more.
every school, University of California, LA, UCLA, their applicants went up 50% when they
Wow.
dropped test scores.
Wow.
Thank you, Ms. Spies.
So you got to read the fine print.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you guys have. So if you want to send those to me, I'm happy to dive deeper into the data and get those answers.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Jean.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your goals.
The next item is approval of the superintendent goals, and as you'll notice from last year, many of the goals are continuing or accelerating, depending on where we were from last year. So I would recommend approval of my goals for the 2021, 2022 school years, and happy to answer
So
any
moved.
questions.
So
Second.
second.
I'd be here.
You beat her.
You beat me?
So, Mr. Luzon, Mr. Luzon made a motion to approve the superintendent's yearly goals, the 2021-22 goals. The second was made by Mr. Callahan. Sorry, Donna.
Okay.
We're gonna have discussion now, so
Yeah,
I'll open it up.
okay.
Go ahead.
All right, these are great. Tina, these are terrific, and you are doing, in my opinion, a yeoman's job under all the circumstances. It's terrific, and you are doing, in my opinion, a yeoman's job under all the circumstances that you are faced with, okay?
Thank you.
One of the things that I'd like to ask, and I'm assuming you're tracking your own goals and journaling them and paying attention to what fits into meeting this goal. I like to see that, so
Sure.
at some point, if you could give us a report back and not just read it through the annual school report, but just to say any one of these goals, like, wait a minute. Well, like any one of them, and just tie in what you've done with that specific goal. And a bonus would be what positive outcome came from that. Okay, so just be a little more specific so that we can see what you're doing connected to these goals. Okay,
Like a progress tracker,
what's that?
a tracker to monitor the progress. So you want to see how I calculate the.
Yes, and just to keep us informed of them.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
I
I'd
mean,
be
I
happy
know
to
you
do that.
Keep us informed on a lot of things, but, and the things that you're doing are wonderful, but track it to the goal.
And then tag it that way.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Mr. Luzon?
Gina, just curious, how large is the student, or do you envision the student educational advisory
Yeah, I was
panel?
gonna ask that question.
So I just met with the the teacher and teacher support professional panel. So what we're thinking is starting at the student leadership level at the high school and middle school, and then adding fourth graders. So sort of it'll get bigger, with the idea being similar to how we do the current one with the educators and support professionals, around 20 max, because then it gets too big. So really a similar thing, interested, nominate yourself, send it to your principal for nomination. And then I would meet with them just like I do with the SEAP for the teachers and support professionals monthly.
So could we, in the future, see information from that group?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Of all things, I really like that.
You know, to kind of piggyback on Mr. Luzon, and there's a conversation online that Catherine and I had, would it be possible to have a liaison from that group to sit on this group?
I know.
Because Catherine, I thought she.
That would be at the committee's request. I'd be happy to build up that team to
capacity,
be able to
yeah.
liaison with the school committee.
That'd be great.
So Chair, do you want that as a future agenda?
Sure, we'll
item?
put it on at the end. Yeah,
Okay,
that would be
thank
great.
you.
Any other
No.
comments? Good goals, Superintendent Burkhardt. Good job. Thank you for providing them. Okay. So we're on to consent agenda items. Anything that needs to
Point
be.
of order, we didn't
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry. Oh, we didn't vote.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Kathy caught it too. Good job. Okay, those in favor of approving the superintendent's goals? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any opposed? Abstentions or recusals? None whatsoever. That was unanimous. Congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Consent agenda items. Anything that needs to be pulled?
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes.
seeing there's none, I make a motion to move all of them.
Second,
It was a motion to move all of them through, and by Ms. Luzon and a second by Mr. Callahan. Okay, those in favor? There's no discussion on those. Any opposition, abstentions, or recusal? That was unanimous. Okay. We're on to reports.
Okay, subcommittee reports, upcoming CALA Comprehensive Support and Improvements, CSI Community Advisory Board, our CAB, will meet on Thursday, October 21st, 2021, at 2:30 PM at CALA in the ALP Common Room 124. For ESSER 3 update, our feedback and our input is still online. All three towns have shared it on their Facebook or their media posts. We will keep it up, continuing on for this week, and if RIDE has not provided us the amount by then, we figure we can just keep it going, and the towns are happy to remind the community as well. I'll now remind parents again this week. But it looks like approximately the majority of our responses are from parents, with our next group being our community and students. So that was nice to see. We also have, members of our teaching staff, and some actually fill multiple buckets, and they can select all the categories that they fill. But overall, right now, it looks like the focus for priority 1 and priority 5, which is high quality curriculum materials and learning supports and intervention, are the top 2 as far as the community input regarding our supports for ESSER 3 funding. And then we have upcoming events. So we have the Charlestown School Flu Clinic, which is tomorrow, 4 to 6:30 p.m. High school girls volleyball team fundraiser at the high school gym, 4:30 to 7:30 on October 13th. October 17th is the class of 2023 co-wash at the Richmond School, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. October 19th is the high school flu clinic. That is just for staff and students, 8 to 10:30 a.m. October 20th, early release day, secondary dismissed at 12:45, elementary at 1:55. On October 21st, the Richmond School Flu Clinic, 4 to 6:30. On October 25th through October 29th, the Charlestown School Book Fair. And on October 26th, the Ashway School Flu Clinic, 4 to 6:30.
Any questions? No? Okay, we're on to the portion of our agenda, school committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions. Ms. Luzon, and then Mr. Abbott.
Can we have a discussion about appointing a liaison to the?
Okay. Thank you. We got it.
Student liaison.
Yes, the student liaison, it's specifically from your advisory
Okay.
group. Yeah, that would probably make more sense. Mr. Abbott?
A member of the community has asked me to request that the issue of CRT be discussed as it might relate to our policies or programming.
Take that into consideration, Mr. Abbott.
And I would hope that you would do that because there's a large section of the community that
Mhm.
finds that very important. And if we want to get bonds passed in the future, we shouldn't be ignoring that segment because it inflames them.
Mhm. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. I'd like to make another suggestion. I'd like to put the creation of a policy committee, subcommittee back on the table for discussion. I think that might be helpful moving forward. So. That's it.
Well, Madam Chair, seeing there's no more requests, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been a
Before we
motion.
adjourn, let's recognize Sylvia in the audience.
Oh, well,
Welcome
thank
back.
you.
Sylvia Stanley.
Hi, Sylvia.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. Thank you.
No. She asked you why you were doing that. Why-
Well, because I think it's great that you're here and you're still showing interest in the work that's going on in this room, and I'm happy to see you. You put a lot of effort into your time here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we had a motion by Ms. Lozan to adjourn, a second by Mr. Callahan. Any discussion on that? No? Okay, those in favor? I don't think there's no discussion on adjournment, right? Anyone opposed? Oh, okay. We did. Thank you, everyone. Do my gavel.